Hey everyone, today we'll be making the classic game of Connect 4. This is the first video in the series, so let's get started. So I'll be coding this game in Python and I'm using the Pygame IDE, but you can just use the IDLE which is there inbuilt with Python. So the first thing we have to do, we need to go into our command prompt and we need to type pip install pygame space numpy. So I already have these two installed, so I'm not going to do this. But if you haven't installed these before, then you have to do these because we'll be using these two modules in our game. So next, in our file, we're going to import the two modules we just installed, which is import pygame, and we also need to import numpy. Okay, so the first thing we'll do is we'll define our global variables. So what are global variables? So global variables are basically certain variables which we define at the top of our code, and all the rest of the code which we type, we define in terms of these variables. So for example, our first one will be rows, and we'll type it in all caps. So in Connect 4 there is usually 6 rows, but what we'll code our game in such a way where we can have as many number of rows and columns and it will work the same way. So we have 6 rows, then we'll also define columns, which we have 7 columns. Then we'll define something called connect x. So connect x is basically how many things you need to connect to win the game. So obviously since it's connect 4, so we'll define this as 4, but again we can just change this at the end of our code and it will just work the same way. And finally we'll define our tile size. So this will determine the size of our window as well as the size of our playing objects. So for now I'll just define this as 80. Okay, so next we need to define some colors. So I'll define blue, which is 0, 0, 255. Then I'll define black, which is just 0, 0, 0. Then I'll define red, which is 255, 0, 0. And then I'll define yellow, which is 255, 0, 255. And you can just change these colors, but I thought this looks okay. And now I'll show you the game. So this is the ultimate game that we'll be making. So as you can see, we first need to decide the size of our window. So we can see that the width, so we have 7 columns and each of the columns is the size of the tile size. So the width of our window is just going to be the columns, the number of columns times the tile size. And in the same way, the height will be the rows times the tile size. But we need to add one to the number of rows because we're also adding this extra row which has our this playing setup. Okay, so I'll move this away. Okay, so we'll just define our window, which will be pygame.display.setMode, and then in another tuple we'll define our width, which we decided it's columns times tile size, and then we'll define our height, which is going to be rows plus 1 times tile size. Okay, and then so next what we have to do is we need to define the game loop. So the game loop is the loop where where you can change each frame of the game, and like the actual coding of the game is done in this loop. So every time the loop runs, it's the next frame. So to set up a game loop, we'll just create a variable called finished, which will be false, and then the loop will be a while loop. So while not finished, so I'm doing while not finished because then we can just set this finished variable to true, and then it would just quit the loop. Okay, then for now I'll just pass in the loop, and when like in our code, whenever we set the finished variable to true, it will just go out of this loop. So now here we'll just quit our code. Okay, then inside of our game loop, we'll set up something called an event loop. So the event loop loops through every event possible, and it does that every frame. So examples of some events are clicking your mouse, then for example pressing a key, then also clicking the X button in the top right corner. So for now I'll just set this up. So for E in pygame dot event dot get. So this just gets every event and loops through them. So then we'll just check for the type of E, and we want to see if it's equal to pygame dot quit. So this means you click the red X button in the top right corner of the window. So then we'll just set finished equals to false. Oh, sorry, false. Okay. So then I'll just run this and we can see if it works. So yeah, we should just get a black screen like this. And if we press this button, it should quit. Oh, sorry, this should be finished equals true. So I'll just run it again. So you can see this is our window, and if we click this, it just closes the window. Okay, so next we'll set up a function which we'll write right here. So the name will be draw board, and it won't take any parameters. So here I'll show you the game again. So here we'll be drawing all of this stuff like this blue box and then these black circles. So this is gonna run every single frame, and yeah. So now let's see. So first we need to set up a global statement with all of our variables which we'll be using. So we'll be using the rows variable, we'll be using the columns variable, the tile size variable, and then all of our colors: blue, black, red, and yellow. Okay, so sorry. Okay, so now we'll just 1 second. Okay, so first we need to draw this blue rectangle. So for that we'll just the x coordinate is just 0 because it's right on the left edge of the board of the window. Then the y coordinate is just one row, right, because this one row is just this much. Then the width is just the columns times times the tile size, and then the height is just the number of rows times the tile size. So here I'll just do pygame dot draw dot rect. Oh, sorry, we need to add one more thing in our global statement. It's our window. Okay, so we're gonna type pygame.draw.rect, and here we'll pass our surface, which is window. We'll pass our color, which is blue, and now we need to add a rect object. So it's pygame.rect, and then in this we need to pass our x coordinate, y coordinate, and then the width and the height. So the x coordinate we said was 0, the y coordinate was just the tile size, then the width was the columns times tile size, and then the height was just rows times tile size. Okay, so now there's just one more thing we need to do. We need to update uh, the display so that it actually registers our changes. So we just need to type that. Now every time in this while loop, we'll just run this drawBoard function. So it should draw, now if we run it, it just draws our blue rectangle. So next we just need to draw these black circles in all of the spots. So for that, what we can do is, first we just need to loop through every row and every column. So here I'll set up the loop. So for R in range rows, then for C in range columns. Okay, so now we have every possible position of the circles. So now we just need to figure out the x and y coordinate. So the x coordinate would just be, like, for example, if we take this circle, so this is the third column and the second row, because we start counting from 0. So it's on the third column. So we're just multiplying. So the diameter of these circles is just our tile size, and then we're multiplying that with 3 because that's the number of columns, and then we're adding half of a tile size because we need to get the center of the circle. In the same way, if we get the y coordinate, it's just first we're adding 1 and then we're adding 2 because our row number is 2. So it's 1 plus 2 times our tile size, and then plus another half of a tile size, because again we're getting the center of the circle. So I'll just write x. So the x coordinate that we decided was the column times tile size plus half of a tile size. So we can just take tile size common, and then it will just be tile size times C plus 1 by 2. Right. And then for y, we said it was 1 plus r times tile size plus tile size by half. So again we can take tile size common. So we'll do tile size times r plus 1 plus half. So it can just be plus 3 by 2. Okay, so now we have the center of our circle. Now we'll just draw the circle. So pygame.draw.circle. So now we'll pass our surface, which is our window object. Then the color, we're drawing it in black. Then the center, we've figured out the x and the y. So we just need to pass those x and y. And let's test this again. Oh wait, yeah, we need to also add in the end the radius. So if we see the game, the radius will just be half of a tile size. So tile size divided by 2, and I'm adding 2 slashes here so that it outputs a integer instead of a float object. So let's see. And yeah, this works, but you can see the circles kind of connect up here and it doesn't look like very nice. So what we can do is from the radius we can just take off like 2 or 3. I'll just try 3. And it looks good now. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you like this tutorial, remember to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. And stay tuned for the next part of the series. Until then, bye.